was treated like a slave and a lab rat. I'm talking about this, guys, because recently Britney has been talking on her Instagram. She has been voicing everything that she's been going through, and I have the utmost respect for her to be saying exactly what happened, to be speaking the truth from her own mouth in this crazy time, in this crazy world, and in this crazy experience that she's been through. And I'm so happy that she's able to speak up now. And I'm going to continue to make videos talking about the stuff that she's going through. She's pushing the information out to as many people as possible, because I really feel like everything that happened with Britney, we, the public, we did have a part to play in it. Our ignorance, our willful ignorance sometimes, our habit of just believing things because it's being said on the media, or assuming that just because somebody's family member, that they must have their best interest at heart. So I make these videos not for us to think of everybody as doom and gloom, but so that we can all educate ourselves and hopefully protect not only ourselves, but the people that we support as well, the people that we love around us, the influencers and celebrities who we want to support. So that's why we're talking about this. I'm going to be quoting some of the things that she said in some of these tapes. I've got my voice, I've got lots of little quotations I've written down here, but I want to start off by talking about the fact that she didn't refer to herself as a lab rat, but what she said is that she used to find people would just be staring at her, like studying her. She says, I was a science lab. They are studying you. That's what she said, which I think is really strange. And I think, you know, and this is what the reason why I want to point this out, guys, is because it's so easy when you see famous people and they have a lifestyle and they have money, and you necessarily don't have that certain lifestyle or money, although poor old Brit barely got any of her money. I can't remember how much she was being given, but she was being given such a little amount to spend every week, and under so many restrictions. All that money she was spending, really her family and all the rest of the corrupt members of Team Conservatorship were benefiting off of it, which is not fair for your girl, you know. But this is not unusual. I want to say that this is not unusual. The people in the entertainment industry, and I have to say this, and athletes as well, athletes and artists. When I say artists, I mean just creative artists. So that's across all the areas of the creative arts. These people are some of the strongest people in the world. I really do believe that they are, because the level of scrutiny that they have to deal with, the whole public opinion who feels, well, because you're on a platform, you signed yourself up for this, which I don't completely agree with that school of thought, by the way. But if you guys want me to talk about that in a separate video, then let your girl know, and I'm gonna do that. But not just that, but also then the industry, because the industry is so nitpicky. I can tell you guys this from experience, like I said, as an experience working in the entertainment industry, both as like a creator, like a producing and stuff, but as a performer, it is cutthroat. I had a friend when I was younger who, well, I don't even know, I had a friend. This is how it is in ballet schools. Even just ballet schools, you know, like to go and watch all these Swan Lakes and the Royal Operas and all this stuff, right? They're literally in these ballet schools. You could go to audition for the ballet, and before you even dance, they'll look at your body type and say you're not going to make it, just based on how your body looks. That's why I did a video talking about Abby Lee Miller and Tyra Banks, and how the normal public thought that those women were extreme in their standards. Now, Abby has also come forward and said that, you know, the producers did push her, and Tyra has, in my opinion, sis has got a couple of screws loose, if you ask me. Love Tyra, but I think she's obviously been through a lot in life. But the truth is, the way that the standards that they were holding people to, and the way that these people behaved, that's how the industry is, guys, because people don't care. They have a piece of, and there's two sides to it, right? Because they're creating a piece of artwork, so to some extent they are allowed to demand what they want to for the artwork they want to create. But what they do is they take that to the next level. They take that to the next extreme now of just putting these ridiculous standards and standards onto people, right? And so even when we're looking at the likes of Britney and her being, you know, like a slave and a lab rat, she is a product for whatever these people are trying to produce. They're not thinking of these celebrities as people. So not only are they under scrutiny by us, the public, expecting them to do everything right and expecting higher of them just because they have a higher level of influence, just because they're famous, then that's also mixed in with the bitterness and jealousy, in my opinion, of people, because these people got money and you ain't got money. So when you see somebody with money, everything they do offends you, because you're just offended that they have money, and if you had money, you do this, and if you this, you that. Because this is how people be talking as well with this stuff, which for me is very off. I don't like how people are like, yeah, well, she's rich and she's this, so she shouldn't even be blah, blah, blah. It's like, listen, why you gotta be hating? Why you gotta be hating? Do you know how hard it is? Like, even with Britney, as I was saying in the previous video, while in an institution, right? she was institutionalized for saying no to doing a dance move. When she did this, think about this, guys. I want you to envision what I'm about to explain, right? This is what she explained. That there was a time where she started to get, she was getting herself back together. This is before she went deep into the conservatorship, where she was really being, trapped at home and everything. But basically, this was back to the 2017 story that I mentioned in another video. So she said no. So in 2017 in Las Vegas, she decided to say no to a dance move. Now, just prior to this, she had gained a little bit more confidence, right? And this is because, she was kind of finding herself again, gaining a bit more confidence. And she literally said, with confidence comes enlightenment, so you think better. Then you aren't so easy to control. So she was coming out of the mind frame of like, she has to just listen to everybody else. She's feeling more confident. She's feeling enlightened. Now she was faced with a scenario where she didn't want to do a particular dance move. The way she describes it is, a whole bunch of people have walked off to discuss her saying no to a dance move. Now, I'm going to give you guys context as a choreographer, okay? This is why I can talk about this stuff. As a choreographer, right, when you make up a dance routine and you're teaching it or whatever, you've always got to leave leeway, because sometimes the way you envisioned it doesn't work. So sometimes it's not that the dancers have to tell you that they don't like something or it feels uncomfortable. Sometimes you can see that doesn't make sense and you change it on the fly. I've done that before. Sometimes the people who are dancing it will say, the way this move is just not sitting right with me, right? I just can't do it. Everybody's bodies function a little bit differently, right? So it might be wise as a choreographer in that moment to just change the dance routine. Again, to change the dance move or to change things a little bit. Again, I've done that. And by the way, it's always a billion times worth it, because people will always perform the best when they feel the most comfortable doing it, which is why it makes sense as a choreographer to actually make the changes, right, for the performer. Now take this to the next level, where we're not just dealing with dancers, but the actual performer who is trying to embody their own artwork. That is where you as the choreographer, whoever's making up these dance moves, should be even more compelled to make something that person feels represents themselves, because they're going to be more confident, they're going to perform better, etc., etc. So that's where choreographers work super closely with artists, because they have to understand the way the artist's body moves, what type of moves they like to use, how they feel comfortable, how they feel confident, because then they're going to have to be singing on stage in front of hundreds, thousands of people whilst singing, whilst going up and down in these crazy costumes. For those of us ladies, also in heels half the time. So to me, this very small thing that she did, which could have been the quickest thing, like, oh, you didn't like that, Britney? Oh, you didn't like that? Okay, why don't we try this instead? Would have been 10 minutes max it would have taken to come up with something different, right? And Britney, for me, and this is why I really sympathize with Britney, because I get where something that's so small to somebody else, like saying no to a dance move, right? There's so many other artists who probably have done that, and the choreographers worked to them fine, you would never know. But for what Britney had been through, her saying no to a dance move was such a big step for her, that it was like, I am finally, this is me taking back a little bit of my life, which again is just so, it just goes to show you how sad everything that she had to go through is and how extreme it was. And you can tell the magnitude of it. Do you know how you can tell that I'm not making a bigger deal out of this than what it really was? It's the fact that a whole group of people have had to go and discuss this. Why is a whole group of people going to discuss this? Why is it not just maybe like, I don't know, whoever's like the creative director of the tour or of the performances, and then like the choreographer? Why has it got to go all the way to a whole group of people? I'll tell you why. Because when she said no to this dance move, they have now been like, oh, she thinks she can think for herself again. She's forgotten that she's just our product. She's forgotten she's just our slave and our lab rat. We're going to go off and we're going to have a conversation about this, because we what are we going to do? She thinks she can we need to sort this out, because she thinks she can think for herself again. Oh no, if she starts thinking for herself, then she might start doing things that are best for herself, and she might start doing this. And this is why they've gone off and done that. And that's what's so sad about it. And think about how many people. Do you know why so many of these people are doing it? Because all these people are getting benefiting their paychecks off of what she's doing. They are making bank. They have protected their lives, and they are flourishing in their lives through keeping her in this state of control. And so her doing something so small, like I've just told you guys how simple it is, right? As somebody who's a choreographer myself, and have been a dancer as well, and I've been on both sides of the coin, how easy and how nothing this situation would be in a normal setting, right? They have to go off and discuss this. And do you know what happens the next day? The next day, is when she was sent to a facility and she was told to tell everybody that she can't perform because her dad is sick. She was told to say that. Now, I wouldn't know about you guys, and I touched on this in a previous video. I remember when this all happened. I remember when she said that her dad was sick, and something just didn't sit right with me at all, because I think, okay, but that's your dad's sick, and but you don't want to think into things. And of course, the media at large, who a lot of the times the media work in very close relationship, they're in bed together with these corrupt Hollyweirdo executives, Hollyweirdo gatekeepers, Hollyweirdo producers, directors, business managers, Hollyweirdo parents who want to exploit their children. A lot of the time the media works very, very closely with them. You'll find that those people have close relationships, right? And so the media made it seem, like, oh, maybe that could be true or whatever, but we will never know. And just to highlight something that's so sad that Britney said, she said, and I'm looking at my notes just to remind myself, because I wrote everything in quotations, what she said. She said, would anybody believe? That's what she was thinking. She's going through all this. She's wondering, would anybody even believe? Because this is what they do. This is why this little step of her saying no to a dance move, right, caused her to end up in a facility. And then you know what her dad says to her? The doctors are going to tell you what to do. I can't help you now. Right? So again, classic narcissistic type move here. James Spears and the powers that be find a way to be like, because this is the thing, all they have to do when people are doing something wrong to you, all they have to do is play hot potato, throwing around who else is accountable. And as long as they're all narcissistic enough together and everybody's always putting it onto somebody else and onto somebody else, you can never pinpoint anybody, which means you can never get the justice that you deserve. And that's exactly what happened with Britney Spears. And so her dad even eventually goes on to say, you don't have to go, but if you don't, we'll have to go to court and I will win, etc., etc., telling her about how she's got no chance because he's got teams and everything, and reminding her that she doesn't even have a lawyer. Now, if that isn't giving Amber Heard and all these people, when like Amber Heard was like, oh, they'll never believe you, blah, blah, blah. This is why I talk about the narcissism thing in the entertainment industry. This is why I make such a big kerfuffle about this to you guys. Not because I'm just obsessive, not because I like buzzwords, not because of anything else, because it's real, and it's so real, and it's so, it's so hidden so well in plain sight that if somebody doesn't explain it to you over and over again with examples, you won't believe it. Do you know how I know that's the truth? Because that's what had to happen to me. I had to see it over and over again. It took me a long time to feel comfortable using the word narcissist, because I was like, I don't want to just be one of those people who calls everything narcissism, which is why I started researching into all of it, but then realizing that this is how people like Britney Spears fall victim to a narcissist. Because you know what narcissists need? They need money, they need control, they need their fake reality to exist. So that's how that, and Britney Spears, she was the perfect one for all these narcissists to use, right? So that's why she became the science lab. They're trying to study her. You know, when they're studying her so they can maintain control over her, right? That's what they're doing. It's the same thing that you see across the board. Even if you want to talk about the slave trade, do you want to talk about the slave trade? I'm going to take it there. Whoop! She didn't know she was going there, but she going there. The slave trade. With the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, which so many people talk about today, la-di-da, hoo-hoo. Okay, let me tell you what happened. Prior to the slave trade actually starting, the soon-to-be slave owners actually went to these countries and were visiting. And you can find this out historically. There's actually a white dude who did a fantastic long essay showing all the history of all of this. So before the slave trade actually started, the pre-slave owners and pre-them being slave owners actually used to go to these countries on surveillance, and that's how they knew how to take over, because they would go to these countries, the places like Africa and so on and so forth. They would show up, they would see what's going on. Okay, we can't do this, we can do this, go back. Then these governments would fund these travelers to go and take over these countries, and they would have plans. That's why they had weapons and everything. That's why they were able to succeed, because they studied the people they wanted to enslave, and then they prepared to be able to execute said enslavement, and then that's what they did. And that's how the transatlantic slave trade ended up going on for 400 years. And the man who actually schooled all the other slave traders how to be a good slave owner, William Lynch, which I have a copy of his letter that I can send to you guys if you want. There's a copy of his letter, and in this letter he has a plan. He strategized how we're going to enslave these people for 400 years. His plan was 400 years ahead. This is what people are like. This is what people don't want to understand. This is what we are ignorant to when we're so busy having the same toxic trait, which is my toxic trait of thinking that everybody what's my toxic trait again? Believing the best in people. We believe the best in people, so then we fall victim, not realizing that there are people out here who are planning devious things, who are studying narcissists, studying you to create you a victim, creating plans that last for 400 years. And that's how long the slave trade was. Think about reading a document written 400 years ago. We struggle right now to even know the history of what happened 30 years ago, 40 years ago. We struggle right now to even think about our actions and how they affect the next generation that's going to come from our own wombs. And these people were planning 400 years ago. And I say all of this stuff, guys, to say to you that this is what we're dealing with. This is exactly what we're dealing with in the world today. This is the level of evil that is going on. And this is what Britney Spears felt victim to. Please don't be a bee. Oh, it's just a fly. It's okay. Sorry, my window's open and I'm still sweating. Anywho, not that you guys asked for that information. So I hope you guys can understand where I'm coming from with that. You know, and so in terms of her being a lab rat, let's talk a bit more about that. You know, we've kind of, the slave thing we kind of touched on. Oh yeah, so in this facility, let's finish that school of thought. So in this facility, right, I might even do the lab rat part as part 2. I might do the lab rat part as part 2. I'm going to do the lab rat part as part 2 because this video is already getting long enough. She said she worked 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week at this facility. So she's at a facility because because she said no to this dance move, because she's trying to do stuff for herself, just because she got a little bit of self-confidence. Remember, guys, I always tell you that self-confidence and believing in yourself and not living in fear is the biggest threat to these people. You realizing that the power is with the people. As soon as she's done that, she's now been put into a facility. So although she's in a facility and is not mentally stable or whatever somehow that they've managed to get her in there, right? The same time, she's still able to work. Isn't that interesting? 8 to 6, 7 days a week. Most people don't even work those number of hours who are not being put into a facility, and yet she's doing that, and all she was able to do is watch a movie sometimes at 9 p.m. That is what you call, oh my gosh, why are you in here? That is what you call slavery. So anyways, guys, I'm going to continue on in part 2 talking about the lab rat. Also going to get rid of this irritating fly that's going to come in the way, I'm sure of it. And I know it's only in here because I'm speaking the truth, and Satan is the Lord of the Flies. And so anyway, guys, I'm going to continue into part 2 because I don't want to make this video too long. I'm going to talk about why they were studying her more and what this has to say about the entertainment industry overall. See you guys in part 2. Don't forget to check out my other Britney videos in my #FreeBritney playlist, where I have lots of videos explaining everything that's happened, or a lot of what's happened up until now. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and like the video if you did. God bless you. I'll see you in part 2. Goodbye.